Good morning, students. Today we will discuss the second half of democracy, that is, why democracy? Why a country needed democracy? So, before starting this class, I wanted to ask you all that I gave you some questions in our previous class, that is, for democracy. What is democracy? There are a few questions the first half of this chapters. Please write all the answers in your exercise copy and do let me know if you have done your work or not. We needed some response in your WhatsApp app also. Please give some response whether you are having your classes or not, whether you are having any problem or not. Please give some response also. So today we will start the second half, that is, why democracy? Why a country require a democracy? What do you think about democracy? Is democracy essential for any country, or is democracy a good form of government or not? So we will discuss this. And so in this chapter, in this second half, there are certain discussion regarding the democracy. Some arguments are there which are against democracy, and some are for the democracy, in favor of democracy. First, we will discuss what are the arguments against democracy. So, first argument is that leaders keep changing in a democracy. It is all about this leads to instability. Yes, in a democratic form of government, leaders keep changing, because we have already discussed one point in what is democracy, that in a democracy a ruler should have a fair chances of losing also, because other party can also win in democracy if there is a free and fair election. So this is the reason leaders keep changing. But some are saying that this is against democracy. If rulers are keep changing, then there will be no stability in a government. This is one of the argument that is against democracy. Another argument is that democracy is all about political competition and power play. There is no scope for morality. Yes, every whether it's a democracy or whether it's a dictator, there is only one ruler who can control the whole country by force. But in a democracy, democracy is a form of government for the people only and by the people only. So whatever government is there, politics will be there, that is for sure. So people are saying in democracy there is party politics only. Third is that so many people have to be consulted in a democracy that it leads to delay discussions. For any decision making, discussions will be there. So many people are involved in this discussion, and this discussion may lead the decision making. They may delay the decision making. Third is elected leader do not know the best interest of the people. It leads to bad decision. We don't know about that, whether it leads to bad decision or not, because the representatives are chosen by people only. Democracy leads to corruption, for it is based on electoral competition. Another point is that ordinary people do not know what is good for them. They should not decide anything, because democracy, we know that democracy is a form, democracy is a government formed by people. So they are saying that ordinary people do not have any idea, so how can they decide? So these are the arguments against democracy. People are saying, some people are saying democracy is not good for a government, for people, for country, because there are so many clauses. So these are the arguments. Some people think this is right, some things this is wrong. This is just an argument which is against democracy. We will discuss argument for democracy, because I don't know about you all, but I prefer democracy in every country. So I really wanted to focus on argument for democracy. Why democracy is required in any country? democracy is a very good form of government. This is just an argument, but you have to remember the argument against democracy also. What are the points of arguments? This one is in page 32. There are 2 3 4 5 6 points against arguments against democracy. Argument against democracy. You have to please write down this argument against democracy. What are the arguments against democracy? You have to write down in your copy. Now we will discuss argument for democracy. What are the arguments for democracy? Why democracy is a very good form of government? So we'll start by one example, that during 1958 and 1961 China faced a major famine. What is famine? Famine means scarcity of food. So in China 1958 to 1961 there was famine. India was very backward at that time. India's economic condition was very not good, but China was a developed country. So in our previous part also we have discussed that in China there is only one party, that is Communist Party. No other party are allowed to elect in an election. So only party was ruling the whole country. But in India has a democracy from the very beginning. Right, from India's independence there was democracy in India. So being economically backward, being developing country, not the developed one. India was not a developed one. Still India is not a developed country. India is a developing country. So being economically backward, India did not face such type of famine. Almost 3 crore people have been died in that famine in China, because China's government did not fulfill people's criteria at that time. But in India, in a democratic country, in where there is a democracy, there is always an opposition party. So if the rulers are not doing their duty properly, then opposition party may ask question. They have the right to ask question. They have the right to fight against the ruling party. So this is possible only in democratic country like India. There is opposition party, and opposition party is very much required in a democratic country. But in China there is no opposition party, there is only Communist Party. So if the government failed to fulfill the requirement or the aspiration of the common people, there is no one to ask any question to the government. So in that famine also the government did not work properly. Because of that, almost 3 crore people has been died. But India did not face such famine. If in case India also faced such type of famine, then the case would be different. Government has to work efficiently at that time, because there is an opposition party to question. So this is called democracy. A democratic government is a better government because it is more accountable form of government. Accountable means answerable. In a democratic government, the government is answerable to the common people, to the opposition party, to everyone. But in a non-democratic country, no one is answerable. The government is not answerable to anyone. So the case is with China. China is not a democratic country, so the government is not answerable to anyone. So government did not do their proper job. There was no one to ask any question. But in a democratic country, if such things has happened, then government should have to give answer. Government is accountable. That is the reason democracy is a better form of government. Every country requires democracy. Another example is that democracy improves the quality of decision making. Even every decision making. If like for example, the case of scheduled tribes and scheduled caste. So they are having reservation. In order to make that decision, there are so many peoples involved. So many discussions, so many interaction has been going on between the leaders. And there was some discussions also, there were some arguments also between the leaders. But at the end, if more people are involved in certain decision making, then obviously that decision was a good one. In a democratic country. Even the opposition parties are also allowed to discuss in such matters. If important discussions are going on, then opposition party might also involve themselves. But in a non-democratic country, if decision making is going on, if major decision has to be taken, then no one should be involved. Only the ruling party will decide. There was no opposition party, there was no one to object. But in a democratic country, discussions will be there, meetings will be there, arguments will be there, everything will be there. So it may take a long time to decide, to give final decision, but that final decision will be the perfect one. So in a democracy, every country requires democracy, because democracy improves the quality of decision making. Another point is that, argument is that, this is for democracy. Democracy provides a method to deal with differences and conflicts. So there was a differences between people, there are differences of opinion, there are differences of religion. In India, we can only give example of India, that India has a diverse culture. So many types of people live in India. Everyone follows different religion, different culture, they speak different language. Everything is different from one another, but they respect each other's feelings, they respect each other's culture, because all of us are Indian. We are living in one country, whether we are diverse in our culture or language or religion or anything, but we live in one country. All of us have to follow our rules and regulation. All of us, every common people follow the same rules, have the same rights. So there is no point of conflict like India, because in other countries also there are so many types of people rule in one country, but if the rulers are from only one particular party, or the ruler is a dictator, then he will say something and all the people have to follow. People do not have any sentiment at that time. The sentiment will not be respected. But in a democratic country, every common people's sentiment have been respected. Every common people's right has been respected. So this is why democracy is required in any country. Democracy provides a method to deal with differences and conflict. This is another argument for democracy. Next argument is that democracy enhances the dignity of citizen. Dignity. What is dignity? It's based on equality. If people are following same rules, if people have been treated equally, then that is called dignity, right? Our government, our constitution respect people equally, whether they are rich, whether they are poor, whether they are educated, whether they are illiterate. Everyone have same respect, same dignity. So this can only be possible in a democratic country. And the next point is, democracy is better than other form of government because it allows us to correct its own mistake. We can correct our own mistakes. We have certain duties which we have to perform. If we were not able to perform our duties, then there is government, there is rules which we have to follow. If there is police who can control us, who makes us realize our mistakes. So this is possible only on democratic country, not the other country. These are the arguments for democracy. So what are the arguments? So there are 6 arguments. 6 arguments against democracy and 6 arguments for democracy. So the 6 arguments which are for democracy is, a democratic government is better government because it is a more accountable form of government. Number 2, the democracy improves the quality of decision making. Number 3, democracy provides a method to deal with differences and conflicts. Number 4, democracy enhances the dignity of citizen. And number 5, democracy is better than other form of government because it allows us to correct its own mistake. So these are the arguments for democracy. Democracy cannot give us everything and it is not the solution to all problem, but it is clearly better than any other form of government. Every common people wanted to live in a democratic country only. They did not wanted to have a dictatorship in their country. So democracy is a better form of government, and I personally feel that democracy is required in every country. So till here, in our next class, we will discuss a broader meaning of democracy, and I think that will be our last class for this chapter. We will complete this chapter. After that, after we finish this chapter, this civics portion, you will have another subject like geography or history. Till then, take care, bye bye, and whatever exercises has been given, please do it in your exercise book, in your copy, and do show me and give response also. Bye bye.